Okay, so in this video, I'll be taking you through how to write your practical chemistry report so that you can score high marks. Practical chemistry is a very important subject because it is a 3 credit hour course, and 3, 4, they are very, very important. It means when you get high marks in those subjects, it is likely that your CWA will also be high. Yes, so now let's dive into how to write the practical chemistry report. The first thing you need to write is the requirements, and the requirements is found on the top right corner. It differs from every teaching assistant, so let me show you a sample of the requirements. Yes, so for example, for this report, the requirements is on the top right corner. So you see name, index number, program, year, experiment, demonstrator, and your date. So as for this one, it differs from every teaching assistant. So it means that every teaching assistant has the requirements that he or she wants you to produce. So for example, some teaching assistants will let you write reference number instead of index number. And then some of them will ignore, let's say, dates, program. Do you get it? So use what your teaching assistants give you. I know you guys did your endorsement, so you're on the endorsement sheet. Whatever you wrote there, you need to produce the same thing on the next page. Then you can start the report writing. Yeah, so the first thing is the requirements. So after the requirements, the next is the title. So the title is the same throughout. So for example, when you are doing physical chemistry, it means your title is volume conserved. The title can be found in the lab manual. You get it? So for example, for inorganic chemistry, I think the title is reactions of anions. So just like I've written here, just write title, then the colon comes. Then for physical, you write is volume conserved. For inorganic, you write reactions of anions. So the title is the same. You don't need to paraphrase the title or do anything to the title. Just hand pick what is in the lab manual and then just put it inside the report. So after the title, the next thing you need to produce is your aim and objectives. Again, when it comes to the aims and objectives, they can be found in the lab manual. So what you just do is that you just lift it from your lab manual, then you just write it. So you just write aim, underline it nicely, then you just go to your lab manual. What have they written at the aim side without paraphrasing? So you just come and lift it and then put it into the lab report. So you don't need to go and paraphrase aim and objectives. Now just take it as it is inside the lab manual and then put it inside your report. So for example, if for physical chemistry, you realize that the aim is to investigate whether the volume of a mixture of solvents is conserved, and then the objectives comes after the aim. So it means that this part of the report is not complex at all. That's the aim and objectives. So after the aim and objectives, the next is the introduction. So the introduction kind of gives information about what the experiment is about. Like the whole topic is volume conserved, the whole topic on reaction of anions. Like that's what the introduction talks about. And then for the introduction, I know you guys have a sample, so I've sent you a sample on your page so you can check the sample out. You don't need to, again, you don't need to produce the exact same thing I've written in the sample. Nah, that's why I'm doing this video. You don't need to take what I've written and then just write it in yours. Nah, don't do it like that. So what you do is that you can use ChatGPT to write the introduction. Even though it is not the correct way of writing reports, you don't have to just use ChatGPT just like that and then write your reports. But for physical chemistry, they don't check all the technicalities that has to do with AI and stuff like that. So as for that one, we can cheat and then just use artificial intelligence to write it. Sometimes the TAs will just threaten you that, oh, they are going to use AI, they are going to use AI detectors. Charlie, it's not true. They will not use it because the number is too much. Sometimes they don't even read the lab. So one of the main things that you can do to get high marks in the lab is by writing plenty. So for example, when it comes to the introduction, don't just write half a page or 1 page or 2 pages. You can write like 3 pages or 4 pages or 5 pages. You get it? When they see you have written plenty and then they read something small and it's sensible, they will give you the mark. They'll give you high marks. So it's very, very important to write plenty. So now let's look at how we use ChatGPT or artificial intelligence to write the introduction. So when you check in the description of this video, I'll put the link to the ChatGPT that you can use to write your introduction. So let's go to the chat GPT and let's see how we will write the introduction. Okay, so now let's see how ChatGPT can help us to write the introduction. First of all, before you type the question into the system, you need to understand that ChatGPT gives you answers based on the questions that you give. So it means that the more specific your question is, the more ChatGPT is able to give you a more solid answer. So it means that when you are asking the questions from ChatGPT, you have to be very specific and you have to be a little bit extensive. Like you have to talk about the subject really well so that ChatGPT will really understand what you want and then give you the right information. So this is how you can do it. So for example, let's say physical lab. Physical lab, the topic is volume conserved. So now let us see how we can generate an introduction from ChatGPT for physical lab. So you can just come and type, can you help me write an introduction for the for my lab report on the lab experiments topic is volume conserved. You see, if you write something like this, you have not really told ChatGPT a lot, because you are saying that, can you help me write an introduction for my lab report on the lab topic, on the lab experiment topic is volume conserved. You see, is volume conserved is a large topic. So you need to let ChatGPT, you need to give ChatGPT more information so that it can be able to tailor your search to the right information. So for example, you can add the aim of the experiment, you can add the objective of the experiment. So you can just add, okay, so the aim of the experiment was to, so for physical, the aim was to investigate the volume of a mixture of solvents so the aim of the experiment was to investigate whether the volume of a mixture of solvents is conserved. Now you have provided extensive information. If you want to provide more extensive information, you can include the objective of the lab. So you can say that, okay, so the objective of the lab was to determine whether volumes are additive for a series of homogeneous solutions made from a mixture of deionized or distilled mixture and a polar organic solvent. Yes, so now I've given it enough information, so you can just press enter and then ChatGPT will give you an answer. So this is it. So you see ChatGPT is still generating the answers. Okay, so now that ChatGPT has generated the answers, you just don't write it just like that. You get, you need to read through. So first of all, they are saying that okay, now introduction. So it means that all this part is not part of the report. So you don't need to write all this part in the report. So you can start writing from here. Okay, the concept of volume conservation or the preservation of volume during chemical processes is a fundamental principle in the field of chemistry. Understanding whether volume remains constant or changes during the formation of mixtures is crucial for various applications ranging from industrial processes to pharmaceutical formulations. The aim of this experiment was to investigate whether the volume of a mixture of solvents is conserved, focusing specifically on the behavior of homogeneous solutions. So now, yes, so from here you can compare it with to the samples that you have, then you just add some information to the samples. So you don't need to just copy everything in the sample, you can just take some of them and then add ChatGPT to it. You get it? Another thing that you can do is that you can actually type out the introduction that you have to the ones I've sent you and type it out inside ChatGPT. Then you just type, can you help me paraphrase this? You get it? So that you can just produce the same thing. Yes. So for example, when it comes to the introduction, they want you to write a lot. So for example, let's say ChatGPT gives me this information and I feel that this information is not enough for maybe 3 pages or two, uh, for 3 pages minimum. I'll say, okay, can you write more? You get it? So now it's giving you an expanded version. So now ChatGPT is going to write a lot for you. You see, this time it's really plenty. Good. So you don't just have to copy blindly and then just put it inside the report. You can take some of the information from here. So for example, you can take this part, the concept of volume conservation or the principle or the preservation of volume during chemical processes is a fundamental field in chemistry. You get it, then you're writing, then you're comparing it with the samples that you have. Then you take some from the samples. You get it? Another thing I would say is that don't go to the internet, don't go and do some research and then come and you will not get high marks in the lab report. Just use the samples that I have given you and then use AI to get high marks, because when you go to do research online and all those things, it doesn't really fetch you high marks. People do that, they want their work to be distinct and all that. Here we are not looking at how distinct your work is. So use the samples. Don't go to the internet and say that I want to write a whole set of different things. Check what is in the sample, take some of them, take a chunk of what is in the sample and then add ChatGPT's information to it, so that now your work can be a little bit distinct. Do you get it? So that's it with the introduction. So after the introduction, after you have written the introduction, the next thing to write is your chemicals and apparatus. So for this one, for the chemicals and apparatus, it's just 1 mark. So you alone know the apparatus that you used in your lab. So you just have to list them. So I've sent you samples. You can just write the exact same thing in the samples without changing anything. Yeah, so as for that one, it's just 1 mark or 2 marks. So as for that one, there's not a problem. So you just write the topic, chemicals and experiment, and then chemicals and apparatus, sorry. Then you just list them. Okay, 1 measuring cylinder, 2 this, 2 this, 3 this, 4 this. You know the equipment that you used for your lab. So you just write all of them. You get it? So you just write all of them and then you are done with the chemicals and apparatus. That side is not difficult. That side is 1 mark or 2 marks at most. Yes. So the next is the procedure. The procedure. So for the procedure, you also have to check what is in your lab manual, but you don't have to produce the exact thing in your lab manual. You have to paraphrase it. You get it? And then you have to write it as a past tense speech. So for example, when you check your lab manual, so I don't know which lab you are doing, so I'm using physical lab as an example. So you can also do the same thing for all the other labs, inorganic, organic, and all the other labs. So what you just need to do is that you need to check your lab manual. So I'm using physical chemistry lab manual right now. So when I open the physical chemistry lab manual, they are saying that the procedure was weigh an empty dry 10 ml volumetric flask and stopper. Record the mass to 3 decimal places. So you see this one is like kind of reported speech writing, but you are supposed to write your report as something you have already done. So instead of weigh an empty dry 10 ml volumetric flask and stopper, you will have to say it in this format, something like an empty dry volumetric flask and stopper was weighed. You get it? So if you say it in that way, it means you are saying it in some kind of like a past tense speech. Yes, so you can this side to procedure, you can use ChatGPT to write the procedure. So what you need to do is that you need to just come and then you write, can you help me write the procedure below in past tense speech? Yes, so when you just write something like that in past tense speech, then you come and type the whole procedure that you have here. So you just come, okay, weigh, so for physical, weigh an empty dry 10 ml volumetric flask and stopper. Record the mass to 3 decimal places. Yeah, so I'm not going to type everything. So you would have to type everything, then it will just do it for you. So for example, the ones I've typed, let's see what ChatGPT will give me. Okay, do you get it? So for the TAs want you to write it not in points but in paragraphs. So you can just put this in paragraphs because what I've written is very small. That's why ChatGPT gave it to me in points. Do you get it? So now you see, now check. Let's look at how they are saying it. They are saying that an empty, dry 10 ml volumetric flask and stopper were weighed using a balance. Do you get it? So now they are saying it in some kind of like a past tense instead of the original one, which was supposed to be reported speech. Yes. So that's it with the procedure. The procedure is also very simple. You can use ChatGPT to write it. The next is your calculations. So as for calculations, your TA took you guys through in the lab. So what you have to do is that you have to compare your answers that I've gotten with your group members, and then you are good to go with the calculation. So the calculation is not really complex. You just need to do what the TA said you should do. The next is the discussion. So for the discussion, you can also use ChatGPT to write it. Then you compare it with the sample. You get it? So even let's say in your sample, so what you can do about the discussion is that, let's say in the sample that you have, you check the discussion, you read through, you understand it, then you just come and type it into the AI. So you come and type maybe what is in the sample. So you type everything, then you just tell ChatGPT to paraphrase it for you. You get it? So that now you can just use it as your own. So the lab report is not really complex. What you just need to do is that you need to use the sample. Don't go to the internet and go and be searching. Don't go to Google and go and be searching any other stuff. Research it's not needed, else you not get high marks. Just use a sample that you are given. Don't say that, oh, a lot of people are using the same sample, so I'll not use that one. Just use a sample with ChatGPT, and then you get the high marks they are looking for. Yes, so that's it when it comes to the discussion. So the next is error analysis. Yes, error analysis. So when we say error analysis, it has an extensive meaning, but for the sake of the practical chemistry lab, the meaning has to do with errors that you cannot prevent. So errors in the experiment that you cannot prevent. So for example, let's say when you went to the lab, the TAs give you, let's say, samples to, let's say, measure, and then let's say the samples could contain impurities. You see, you might not know that they contain impurities, so you could say that, oh, the unknown samples may contain impurities which could affect maybe the boiling point when we were reading. Do you get it? Example, when you went to the lab, you were measuring boiling point, and then the temperature in the atmosphere could also affect the boiling points they are reading. You get it? So those are error analysis. You can see you cannot change the temperature of the room. Yes. So for example, let's say you went to the lab, and then the equipments that you were using, they were faulty. They are all error analysis. So I know your TA explained error analysis to you. So you can also come to ChatGPT and then Charlie. You not come and say error analysis. So you just come and say, can you help me with errors you cannot prevent on the lab experiment is volume conserved. Then you just press enter, and then it will give you some answers. So you just read through, and then you see which one is actually talking sense. Then you just put it inside the report. So I'm not saying you should use ChatGPT to write the entire report. I'm just saying that use a sample that you have, and then just add a little bit of ChatGPT to it, and then you'll be fine. So that it makes your work distinct. You get it? You can just paraphrase the samples I've given you, and then you just use it like that. You get high marks. So the next after error analysis is precautions. So as for precautions, I know you guys know what precautions are. So you can just come to ChatGPT. So this one is not even a big deal. This one just comes to ChatGPT straight. Can you give me precautions on the lab experiment? This and this and this and this and this. So just give you, then you just read through, and then take the nice points, and then just include it in your report. Yes. So that's it with the precautions. Let's say you press enter, and it gives you, let's say, 4 precautions, and then you are not satisfied with 4 precautions. You can tell ChatGPT, please tell me more. Then it will give you more precautions. Do you get it? Yes. So the next is conclusion. So that's the exact same thing. Conclusion, you can also use the sample. Then you just let ChatGPT paraphrase it for you. So you just type the whole thing. Then you just type, can you help me paraphrase this? Then ChatGPT will paraphrase it for you. Then you are good to go. So the last thing I would like to talk about is references. This side a lot of students get this side wrong, but it's very, very simple with ChatGPT. As for this one, you can use ChatGPT to just write it without thinking about anything. You need to know that when it comes to the references at KNUST, we use the Harvard referencing style to write the lab report. So you can just come to ChatGPT and just come and type, can you help me with reference books according to the Harvard referencing style on the lab experiments you type the topic. Example is volume conserved. So do you see? Automatically it has given you references. So this one, you just write the exact same thing. Don't change anything. Especially beware of the punctuation. Don't change it. So for example, this one, Atkins. So the first one, you just write Atkins, comma, capital P, then your dot will come, then comma, then end. The polar, comma, J, dot bracket open 2017. You write the exact same thing without changing anything. You get it? So when it comes to the referencing, ChatGPT can just help you. Very, very simple. Yes. So let's look at this one. Okay. So I also gave ChatGPT something to do. So I told him, can you give me references according to the Harvard referencing style on the topic is volume conserved. Okay, so don't forget. So it means that when you are asking this question, don't forget to bring the reference books. Don't say references. Just come and say, can you help me with the reference books according to the Harvard referencing style on the lab experiment is volume conserved, or accord or on the lab experiment reaction of anions, or the other ones. Do you get it? So that you just get the answers and then you just copy the exact same thing. You don't change anything. You don't change full stop to what to comma. You don't change anything. That's how we do the Harvard referencing style. So you just take exactly what is here and then you just write it in your report. So for the references, you can write like three or five precautions to try and write a lot. Write at least five. Conclusion, you just write your paragraph there. Error analysis, you try as much as possible to write at least three of them. Yes. So I think that's it for the lab. Another thing that you can do is that now you guys are rotating the labs. So now if you write physical lab today, your friend will write, let's say, analytical. The next person writes on organic, the next will write on maybe inorganic. So what you can do is that now that after your first lab, the rest of your labs you can just rotate yourselves, your books. You just go and take somebody who had high marks in his first lab reports, and you just take quick checks, and then you just come and paraphrase and then just do some skirmishes what the person has written, then you just produce the exact same thing. So the lab is stressed, but it's not really stressed like that. You just have to just use the samples that you have, then you just change some little things inside, and then you just submit it for marking. That is how you are going to get the high marks. Some people don't try and then go to the internet and then Google and be going to be doing a lot of research. Nah, those things, it doesn't really, and then don't try to be using your own words to be writing. Nah, here if you use that, you will not really get the high marks. Just use ChatGPT. Use the samples that you have. Maybe somebody has written an introduction, you like the introduction. What you can do is that, you can just come and let ChatGPT write something for you, and then Charlie insert it in some places. Or what you can do is that if you have time, you can type the whole introduction and tell ChatGPT to paraphrase it, and then let's say add relevant information to it. Yes, so that's it with the on how to write the lab reports. Yes, so that's all on this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, you can just text me, and then I'll be glad to answer all the questions. Okay, bye.